his soul wrote it. On the 12th day of the 9th month of 1271, a man named Nichiren was brought to a beach called Tatsunokuchi and positioned for beheading. The sword was raised. Then something happened that stopped the execution. He survived. But Nichiren did not describe that night as a survival. He described it as a death. In his own words, "A man called Nichiren was beheaded at the time of rat and cow at midnight on the 12th day of the 9th month last year. What is writing this is his soul. He was sent to Sado Island, a place chosen for its distance and its desolation, a small abandoned temple in a graveyard called Tsukahara, wind that never stopped, cold that did not lift, locals who were, in his own description, savage as tigers or wild dogs. He had no political protection. The Kamakura government had just tried to kill him. His disciples were being exiled, imprisoned, their land taken. There was no institution left standing behind him. And in that graveyard, in February of 1272, his soul picked up a brush and wrote the Kaimoku-sho, the opening of the eyes. What it contains is a vow, and a vow written by a man who considers himself already dead is a different category of commitment than anything written from a position of safety or hope. Nichiren asked a question in the Kaimoku-sho that most teachers skip over. He asked, "Why do the gods not protect me?" This is a serious question for a man who had spent years teaching that the correct practice of the Lotus Sutra would bring forth the protection of the heavenly gods. He had staked his credibility on that teaching, and now he was sitting in a graveyard in the middle of winter with no gods in sight. The answer he gives is precise. The gods have withdrawn because the entire country has turned against the Lotus Sutra. Their absence is a national condition, not a personal failure. He is not being punished. The country is. But then he goes further. And this is the part that separates the Kaimoku-sho from every other text written in that period. He says his vow holds regardless, whether the gods come or they do not, whether heaven supports him or abandons him. The commitment he is about to write does not depend on the outcome. It does not depend on protection. It does not depend on results. In the Kaimoku-sho, he writes, "Let heaven forsake me. Let ordeals confront me. I will not begrudge bodily life." That is the structure of an unconditional vow. The condition is removed entirely. There is no "if the practice works." There is no "if I receive a sign." The vow exists before the outcome and after it. Most practitioners approach the law with a wish. A wish requires something back. A vow requires nothing back. Nichiren drew that line in February of 1272 on Sado Island, from a position where he had already lost everything a man can lose. The graveyard at Tsukahara is where he wrote them down. 3 sentences, that is all they are on the page. I will be the pillar of Japan. I will be the eyes of Japan. I will be the great vessel of Japan. 3 vows, written by a man in an abandoned temple surrounded by graves in the 2nd month of 1272. No institutional backing, no political protection, no guarantee that anyone would ever read them. Now look at what he claims. Pillar, eyes, great vessel. These are not personal aspirations. A pillar holds a structure up. Eyes see what others cannot. A vessel carries what others cannot carry alone. He is writing a functional role, not a title, and he writes it in the first person. Not someone will be the pillar. He writes, I will be. From a graveyard, as a soul. The conventional reading of this passage treats it as a declaration of mission. Nichiren announces his role in propagating the Lotus Sutra in the latter day of the law. That reading is accurate, but it stops too early. A wish stops at the announcement. A vow has a different weight because of what precedes it. What precedes these 3 sentences is a man who has already accepted death, asked why the gods did not come, and concluded that his commitment holds regardless. By the time he writes, I will be the pillar of Japan, the word will carries everything that came before it. That is what the Kaimoku-sho deposits into the tradition, a vow with a documented foundation, written under conditions that removed every reason to make it. There is a passage in the Kaimoku-sho that practitioners with decades of experience tend to read past. Nichiren quotes the Makashikan, a text by the Chinese Buddhist scholar Qi, written 6 centuries before the Kaimoku-sho. The quote reads, As soon as you practice and comprehend, the 3 obstacles and the 4 demons will begin to fight you. You must not follow them or fear them. If you follow them, you will turn toward the evil ways. If you fear them, they will prevent your practicing the true teaching. Nichiren does not quote this as background material. He quotes it because it answers the question he raised in the previous chapter. Why did the gods not come? Because the obstacles came instead. And according to Qi, that is the correct sequence. Then Nichiren adds his own line, one sentence that reframes the entire mechanism. If the demons did not fight it, we would know that it was not the true teaching. Listen to that again. If the demons did not fight it, we would know it was false. The obstacle is the proof. The intensity of the opposition is the measurement of correctness. A practice that faces no serious opposition is, by this logic, a practice that has not reached the true teaching. Nichiren knew this before Sado. He writes in the Kaimoku-sho, I found that if I do not say this, I may be peaceful in my present life, but I shall fall into the hell of incessant suffering in my next life. And that if I do, I shall definitely have to suffer the 3 obstacles and meet the 4 devils. My decision was, I must say this. I must not keep silent. He knew the obstacles would come. He chose them anyway. That is the structure underneath the 3 vows from chapter 3. The vow is not written in spite of the obstacles. The vow is written with full knowledge that the obstacles are coming, that they are proof, and that silence would cost more than suffering. For a practitioner who has been at this for 20 years and still faces serious opposition, the Kaimoku-sho gives the specific answer. The opposition is not evidence that something is wrong. It is evidence that something is right. And Nichiren made that case from a graveyard in the winter of 1272, before he wrote a single vow. Nichiren had a specific way of describing what suffering does to a person. He used metal. Iron, forged, becomes a sword. When wise men and saints are abused and reviled, their value is tested. The official chastisement I have suffered is not due to my sins in this life. Exiled because of my sins in former lives, I will expiate those sins in this life and escape rebirth in the 3 evil realms in the future. The exile on Sado is not punishment in the conventional sense. It is a forge. The suffering on that island is doing something specific, burning off karma accumulated across multiple lifetimes. Nichiren is not enduring Sado despite his practice. He is expiring deep karma because of it. Then he goes further. Cracks appear in iron when it is heated red hot, just as suffering is caused by sin. When stones are heated, they become dust, and when gold is heated, it becomes pure gold. Now, with suffering, the virtues of your pure, faithful hearts will be revealed. He is writing to his disciples, people who are also being persecuted, whose land is being taken, whose families are turning against them. He is not offering comfort in the abstract. He is giving them a mechanism. Suffering has a yield. The yield is the revelation of what was already inside. The Kyodaisho, a letter written to a disciple whose father had disinherited him for his faith, makes the same point in a harder register. Nichiren writes, "Because you believe so strongly in the Lotus Sutra, your great sins of the past are being expiated by persecution in this life." That sentence does something most spiritual writing refuses to do. It connects the intensity of the persecution directly to the depth of the past karma being cleared. The worse it gets, the deeper the clearing. There is no ceiling on that logic. For a practitioner who has practiced correctly for years and watched the opposition grow, this is the answer the Kaimoku-sho gives. The growth of the opposition is the measure of the depth of the karma being burned. Sado was not the end of Nichiren's practice. It was the forge. And a forge does not destroy what is genuine. It reveals it. The Kaimoku-sho is a historical document. It is also a structural template. Nichiren wrote his vow under 4 specific conditions. He had survived an execution attempt. He was exiled to a graveyard island with no political protection. The gods had not come, and the obstacles had intensified in direct proportion to the correctness of his practice. Under those 4 conditions, he wrote 3 sentences beginning with, "I will." The question the Kaimoku-sho puts to a practitioner is direct. What are your conditions? What has been removed from your situation? What has intensified around your practice? And what are you writing from inside that? A wish is written from a position of wanting something. It looks forward and waits. A vow is written from a position of commitment. It looks at the current conditions and states what holds regardless of them. Nichiren did not write, "I hope to be the pillar of Japan." He wrote, "I will be," from Tsukahara in February, as a soul with no body left to protect. The Kaimoku-sho does not ask you to replicate Nichiren's conditions. Sado Island is not a requirement. What it asks is simpler and harder. It asks whether your commitment to this practice depends on the outcome, whether it holds when the gods do not come, whether it holds when the obstacles grow, whether it holds when the people closest to you become, as Nichiren put it in the Kyodaisho, enemies of the Lotus Sutra. If it does not depend on those things, it is a vow. If it does, it is a wish. Nichiren drew that line in a graveyard. He left the document behind so the line would still be visible 750 years later. The Kaimoku-sho is that line. If you want to understand what happened at Tatsunokuchi the night before Nichiren wrote this document, that video is next.